You might be able to tell that this is a Sire guitar. Now, I emailed them asking if I could demo some of their new guitars, their new range, and this is, I guess, now their kind of flagship Larry Carlton model. And worth mentioning that it does say sample on the box of this, so I think this has been selected rather than just sent off a shelf, if you get what I mean. So for the purposes of review, you might think that if you were a company sending guitars out, you might pay special attention to those that are sent out to be featured on YouTube channels. I don't think that would be wild to expect. Looks very tidy. I think these do look a step up in quality. As you see, Seymour Duncan pickups. We've got Goto hardware, gold Sire locking tuners, and stainless frets. So let's see how it plays straight out of the box.
This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses.
This is the second of these higher end Sires that I've played, and again, spotless kind of work. There's a sticker on this one. I think if you would be trying to sell this guitar as more expensive, you might want to get rid of the stickers, Sire. As I've said before, I think the trouble with this sort of thing is that you're paying quite a lot more for a guitar which actually feels quite similar. I think this one, for chording, I found it to be, I think, quite bright and lively. I actually find the radius to be a little bit flat for me, so I think it's like a 10 to 14 inch compound radius or something like that. I'll flash up on the screen what it actually is. The transparent wood I'm quite liking the look of. Looks like ash underneath there. Again, with this model you get the gloss on the fretboard, which was one of the things that from the earlier Sires I felt like that was a somewhat odd choice. It looks fairly normalish on a bass guitar. On a guitar like this, I think you'd expect it to be more satin like the back. Definitely a more vintage tint to these guitars than the other guitars. But yeah, I think, as I say, for chords, but for me, I find the radius a little bit flat for the. I'm more impressed with this one than the other one, but still, as I say, I think it's a little bit tricky with the Sire once they've established being really good value to then up price, you know, to above £1,000. It's a pretty tricky maneuver to pull off, I think. You're going to be getting your Goto hardware, Seymour Duncan pickups, stainless steel frets, and Sire branded locking tuners, a nice slab of transparent kind of ash, a well-made guitar, no flaws on this that I can detect, and that is the significant difference that I've found between this range and the stuff that we're used to from Sire, like the S7 range and below. Those would have finishing flaws on them. These, I've not found a single one, so a definite level above in terms of sort of build quality and attention to detail. But at the end of the day, what the guitar feels like and to play, I think is actually pretty close. So I would encourage you, if you're considering one of these, to maybe try and get into a shop and compare
with an actual S7, because I think you might be surprised at kind of how similar they are, I think, in my opinion. And what I think that shows is that the S7 and the S3s and T3s, T7s are really, really good value for money. As you start to upgrade the hardware and the pickups, those are, you know, additional costs in hardware and components and stuff like that, that doesn't necessarily obviously translate to a you know, 2-3 times the price guitar. It's a step up in terms of build quality and in terms of components, but at the end of the day feels very similar to play, very similar kind of Sire guitar experience, which I would say feels to me very much the modern side of a Strat type instrument, rather than anything particularly classic. Even the SSS ones and that sort of stuff are still a 2-point trem. They're still very much got this Sire inspired cutaway and neck angle, and the radius as well, which is a pretty far cry from vintage. And the neck shape itself is kind of a little on the slimmer side, rather than, you know, a vintage Strat spec, which would be a bit more on the chunky side. So that is the Sire S10 SSS. I was more impressed with this one than the HSS, which the particular guitar that I got, I felt like wasn't as lively in my hands as I would have liked. This one, I think, a better example of a guitar, and the case as well, I think, is the star of the show. They've really put quite a lot of investment into these hard cases. Great job with that. And also, you know, great attention to detail. A very solid guitar, solidly built, staying in tune nicely, sounds good, plays good. Just does highlight again the importance and the quality of those S7 brand guitars, which I think are made in exactly the same place. Yeah, don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Have you tried any of the S10? Would you spend this much on a Sire, or are there other brands that you would select once you started stepping into this price range? Love to know your thoughts in the comments. Cheers.